What is up, everybody? Welcome to the Titans Time Podcast, your Tennessee Titans podcast for the Pigskin Podcast Network. I'm your host, Tyler Staggs. We got a very special show for you today. Since the last time y'all saw me, the Titans have made some moves. Last show was last Saturday, and pretty much just a couple of hours after I got done with the show, the Titans decided to make a move and trade for Robert Woods. So, of course, we're going to be talking about that on the show today. But to start things off, as always, if you want to support the show, make sure you check out our merch. All you have to do is go to titans-time.myshopify.com/collections/all. That'll take you right to all of our merch, our hats, t-shirts, hoodies, which, kind of getting out of hoodie season right now. But if you live in Tennessee, you never know what the weather's going to do. It may be 80 degrees one day, and then the next day, it's going to be like in the teens. So you may want to go check out one of those hoodies still. And of course, you can check out our social medias as well. Our Twitter is Titans_time, Instagram Titans Time Podcast, Facebook Titans Time, and audio version of this will be out a little bit later today. Go check us out on Stitcher, Spotify, Apple Podcast. Make sure you follow the podcast, rate us 5 stars, leave us some comments, questions. We want to hear your thoughts on everything the Titans are doing this offseason so far and everything going on across the NFL. If you're watching on YouTube right now, I'm going to ask that you back out of the live chat, hit that like button, look at that subscribe button. If it's red, click it. Turn it gray, turn on the post notifications so you never miss when we go live or when we upload a new video. Share the video out. We want to get more people in here so that we can grow our chat. We want to get more opinions from different people, get different perspectives on things. That, just brings a better show, honestly, to you guys, because then that may something that I look at one way, you may look at it another way, and that we can chat about it and see, what we think. So definitely do that. And like I said, get your family and friends to subscribe because we're trying to hit anywhere between 800 and 1,000 subscribers before the end of this year. And I really appreciate everyone that's already subscribed and helped out. And now it's time to bring in the Blue Enforcer, Titans in Truth, Chris. And Chris, glad to have you on the show again. Y'all go check him out on Twitter. It's at TNT Blue Enforcer, and YouTube. Go subscribe to him there at Titans in Truth. Thank you again for coming on the show today, man.
Man, good morning. Feels really good. Glad to be back with you. And Titans time is upon us. And happy days are here again.
It is. I know, looking back at last week, and, I talked about this some last Saturday. When the Titans released Julio Jones, I was like, okay, I'm a little thrown off here because I thought after giving up a second round pick for him, we're gonna give him another year, see if he can stay healthy. But when they released him, my mind also got to turning. I was like, there has to be something that J-Rob is working on that none of us know about yet, obviously. And sure enough, like I said in the intro there, it was like just a couple hours after the show, I'm checking Twitter and everything, and I see that we trade for Robert Woods. And, we'll dive into that a little bit more here in a minute. But I was like, okay, that's the move that everyone's kind of been waiting on. We've been on the edge of our seat waiting for that. I'm going to hit a couple of comments right quick. My wife's in the chat saying, let's go, tighten up. And saying the like button does the fun stuff in the YouTube app now.
Well, it's always good to have the missus on the show, included in the show. So to the business, how you doing?
Yeah, if it wasn't for her, I probably wouldn't have started this because her and my sister-in-law, back before my brother and I started this, they told us, y'all talking about the Titans all the time, talking about football. Like, y'all just need to start a podcast. So without them, I wouldn't be at this point. We wouldn't be sitting here cutting it up, talking about Titans football, all the moves that they made. So definitely
Yeah.
shout out to them.
It is interesting that a lot of your podcast and even mine have come from the ladies,
Yeah.
and that my wife, she doesn't really follow sports like that unless she's getting it from me. So
Right.
she would call it brainwashing, so to speak. And I'm like, I'm not brainwashing you completely, but I mean, if it's working, I'll keep doing it.
Yeah.
So, shout out to Mrs. Newell, for just helping me out. But yeah, one of my friends, helped me get started on that. And once
Mhm.
her work schedule got kind of bad, once her work schedule got kind of crazy, I kind of had to take it over myself. So, but yeah, it's it's crazy, but this is always having a good podcast. Never can stop talking Titan ball.
That's right. And, some more moves that the Titans made this past week is we get our, really this past year, standout special teamer and a great depth piece in Ola back. And I was glad to see him coming back. I knew
Mm-hmm.
that the Titans were going to, you know, he was out there in free agency, and I kept waiting because obviously we had already seen the Titans sign some depth pieces back, and I kept waiting. I'm like, all right, where's Ola at? I want to see him come back. I want to
Mm-hmm.
see Crookshank come back because he's been big for us against tight ends. I'm like,
Yeah.
these are some guys that depth pieces that I think we need back, and one of them has happened in Ola coming back. What were your thoughts whenever you saw that Ola is going to be back with the Titans this next year?
Really not much to say on that, but except it was definitely a refreshing feeling. It's good to have him back in the fold. Not just a good special team player. Shout out to Dylan Cole, by the way, who
Mm-hmm.
also got returned on a 1-year deal as well. Both of those guys are good on special team, but Ola also provided some much needed depth as a pass rusher as well. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, of course he had the big play in Seattle, pretty much sacking Russell Wilson, which should have been a safety and should have
Mm-hmm.
ended the game right there. But he provided some decent depth as far as a pass rush. I believe he had, if and I'm looking up his stats, I believe he had 2.5, 3 sacks on the year. So I mean, it was still a lot of really good things that he was able to do, not just from special teams, but as far as also in also in helping to stop quarterbacks and help be a part of that big the defensive line that has been so successful. So I mean, that's still pretty major. So bringing him back, he had 2.5 sacks. I found that now.
Yeah,
He had 2.5 sacks. So having that, I mean, good a good find, a good sign.
exactly. Because, like you said, coming in, the play in Seattle, and then because Bud Dupree was in and out some, trying to get
Mm-hmm.
healthy at the first of the year, and it kind of showed why you need to have good depth pieces, especially at that edge rusher position, because whether your guys are, they go out of the game hurt or if they just need a breather for a minute, if you have depth there and can still get after the quarterback and still get that constant pressure, I mean, it helps out tremendously. And having Ola come in and provide those good snaps, I mean, I'm not exactly sure what his playing time as far as just on the defensive side, like what percent of the snaps he played, but
Mm-hmm.
given the limited amount of time that he had there, 2.5 sacks. You ask me, that's pretty damn good.
I
So,
agree.
yeah, I'm going to take that every day of the week. Glad to have him back. And now we can hop into the bigger news from this past week, and that's definitely the Titans trading for Robert Woods. And when I saw the trade first happen, I was like, okay, what we have to give up for him? And when I saw it was a 6th-round pick, I was like, oh, you got to be kidding me! Like, this is a great deal by J. Rob. And then earlier in the week, we got to see even more how it was a really good deal by J. Rob, because the trade didn't become official until after the Rams paid Robert Woods roster bonus, which saved the Titans over $3 million for a cap hit. So, just moves all around. And Woods, he's a really good blocker. He runs really good routes. And until this past year, when he just so happened to tear his ACL, like the 3 years before that, I think he had only missed like one game. So he's a guy who's out there on the field for you. He's going to come in motivated this next year because he's coming off of winning a Super Bowl with the Rams, but he's been sitting on the sideline. He wasn't out there playing. So, yes, he has that Super Bowl ring, but he's going to be like, okay, I need to be out there, help a team get to this point again, and I want to show out in that big game and actually be out there making plays to bring that championship back home.
Yeah. And at first when I saw all of this coming up, I was like, okay, Robert Woods, I've heard the name and things like that, but I'm thinking, is this an upgrade over Julio? Because I was kind of bummed when they cut Julio. I wasn't expecting it either. I thought they were like, give him another shot. Let's see if he can come back fully healthy and maybe stay healthy. But when they made this trade, I had to really, at first, I was like, okay, we got a receiver, that's good. We do need one. And you said 6th-round pick. Now, here's the caveat with that. That's a 6th-round pick in 2023.
Right.
So we didn't even have to give up a draft pick in this upcoming draft. So we keep all of our picks in this draft and we still get a quality receiver. And this guy, he hasn't had a year where he had less than 500 yards receiving at all. And he had 45 catches before the injury in 9 games. So it looked like he was on his way to putting up some nice numbers. And he's had a couple of 1,000-yard seasons in there and everything. But like you said, he's a crisp route runner, very good. He's a very good blocker. But also he's got some dog in him, I could tell. I watched from No Flags Film. Shout out to No Flags Film, by the way. And, just saw some things like I want to say he's kind of similar to A.J. Brown. Like, you just get the ball in his hands and let it happen. Like, they even had some jet sweeps, and they even had like some inside zone handoffs to him at times too. So he can line up anywhere on the field, outside, inside, X, Y, or Z, and you could use him everywhere in all different ways. Now, coming off the injury is the scary part. Although I did listen to a little bit of A to Z Sports this week, and Robert Wood, Bobby Trees, as he likes to be called, basically said it was a clean tear, and I think they had a doc talk segment, so they talked to a doctor who's familiar with those type of injuries, and basically said, if it's a clean ACL tear, then he should be able to come back in really good shape. Definitely around training camp. So, definitely don't want to rush him, but the news that was given as far as that, and I'm not a medical expert or anything, but by the way that was going, it sounded like it's some pretty good news. So, I definitely look forward with that, but I like the deal a lot.
Yeah, and that's really, I know for a lot of Titans fans, that was probably the biggest holdup at first whenever they saw that the Titans traded for him, was the ACL tear. And
Mhm.
I know there were some people out there. I saw one person on Twitter. I can't remember who it was, but they were like, "Oh, great! The Titans are trading for another injured
Injured guy.
receiver." And I'm, I went back and I looked at his games played and everything, and I was like, up until that ACL tear, I mean, you go back the 3 years before that. Like I said, he only missed one game. I was like, it's
Mhm.
not like this guy is constantly in and out. And ACL tears, yes, if you rush a guy back from it too quick, then he's not going to be himself. And even though they've gotten so much better at dealing with ACL injuries as far as the timetable for return, I mean, guys are coming back earlier. Yes, it may
Mhm.
take them, you know, a couple weeks to really get back completely comfortable with their body because they can be out here working out, running routes, this and that, and feel great. But until they get in that game and they're thinking about, okay, I'm gonna get hit now. I'm gonna be, I'm just gonna let my body take over, really,
Yeah.
trying to make these cuts. They have to get out there, do that, and realize, okay, my knee's good. Like that
Yeah.
ACL's good. I'm confident in it now. And then they usually turn things around. And definitely don't want to see the Titans rushing back too quick because we saw last year, Bud Dupree, he came back a little too quick because he was ready to be out there. Kind of
Right.
led to him being in and out over the next couple of weeks. But Woods, I'm excited to see what he brings to this team. And now, maybe the Titans add that third receiver now in the draft at 26. And I know you got a little bit that you're wanting to talk about there with one of the latest mock drafts that has come out and has the Titans. And I haven't saw this yet until you mentioned it to me. Titans trading up to take like the fifth best quarterback, I think you said, in
Yeah.
or the fifth rated quarterback in this draft.
Exactly. And I mean, again, yeah, the injury thing. I know a lot of people go to the injury thing and think, oh my God, here we go with that. But, one thing about J Rob is that he likes to get guys, you know, value. I mean, we got it with Big Jeff. That was basically the lightning rod. It
Mm-hmm.
was basically we struck gold there, because if it wasn't for that injury, even though he did have the the domestic issue, which ended up getting straightened out, and obviously Big Jeff has been nothing but a model citizen this
Mm-hmm.
whole time. But now Big Jeff recovered from that and is pretty much one of the best defensive tackles not named Aaron Donald in this game.
Mm-hmm.
And Caleb Farley, Caleb Farley is the same, I think has the potential to do the same thing. You know, hate that he tore his ACL and was just getting his chance to
Mm-hmm.
start. But now he has a chance to do kind of the same thing, and same here with Robert Wood. So I'm definitely looking forward to that. As far as that draft goes, I mean, we'll get into that a little bit later. But yeah, that I would rather much less take a receiver or an offensive lineman in that situation.
Yeah, for sure. Because, like we were talking about before we started the show, there's just, as far as this draft class for quarterbacks, there's maybe one or two guys that, and I don't even know if they're guys that you would want to jump up in the draft to get. I mean, you have some draft classes for quarterbacks where it's like, okay, that's our guy. We got to go up there and get him. But this draft class, that's not the case in it. Want to hit on some comments right quick. We got Al Pierce in here saying, tighten up, Al. Thanks for hopping in here. And since you did mention Caleb Farley, my wife, she says that we thought Caleb Farley was going to be the same way, talking about coming in, fast, great cuts, all of that. And it is unfortunate that Farley tore his ACL last year, was finally getting the chance to start. I still have high hopes for him.
I
I
do
think
too.
his potential is out the roof. And as long as, the biggest thing is going to be injuries for him. If he can stay healthy, I think he's going to get it all put together and he's really going to start hitting his stride. And that's going to help this team out immensely on the defense. And he's probably got some pressure on him now because we know that Jackrabbit's gone. We know Christian Fulton's going to lock up one side, but
Mm-hmm.
as far as that other side, that's going to be Farley's baby there. I feel like they're fixing to throw him out there and be like, all right, we took you
Go
in the
get
first
him.
round. Yep.
Yep.
Show
You're
us what
right.
you got here.
And you're
So
you're absolutely right. I mean, now Farley's gonna have to show why they drafted him in the first place. And I think definitely you're right. Sky's the limit for Caleb Farley, as far as I'm concerned. I know some people are ready to give up on him already. I'm not one of them. So it's just the fact that, like you said with Robert Woods, you got to just trust that knee. And with injuries, it's really not so much more physical, it's more mental as far as anything. You just got to trust, trust your knee, trust that it won't fail you, trust that you can, go back and do the same things. You've been through the rehab, you've been through the work. Now it's like, hey, time to go take care of business. And you just got to believe in that. So I still got hopes for Caleb Farley. I think he's going to be fine.
yeah, I agree. And Chris, this seems like it's a good time to get into a segment of the show here, and that's going to be the best bet segment presented by DraftKings. And we know the March Madness is going on right now.
It is.
Unfortunately, I know you're a big Memphis fan. I'm a big Volunteers fan. Both of those teams have gotten put out, which it hurts. But for college basketball fans, it's easy to join in on the action or on the court for the biggest tournament of the year with DraftKings Sportsbook. You can turn your team's victory into your own big win. New customers can bet just $5 on any team to win and get $200 in free bets if they do. It's that simple. If they win, you win. And right now, a team that might be good to bet on would be St. Peter's because they are just wrecking brackets left and right and wrecking dreams for all these other teams. And if Sportsbook isn't available in your state yet, you can still join the college hoops action with DraftKings pools. Everyone can play free pools all March long for a shot at a share at over $250,000 in prizes. Simply join a pool and answer questions like who will make it to the next round and who will hit the most three-pointers, then track your results. Simple. Just download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use promo code TPPN. Bet $5 on any college hoops team to win and get $200 in free bets if they do. If they win, you win with promo code TPPN this week at DraftKings Sportsbook. Must be 21 years or older. Restrictions apply. And you can see the show notes for more details on that. And if you or someone you know has a gambling problem, crisis counseling and referral services can be accessed by calling 1-800-GAMBLER, 1-800-NEXT-STEP, 1-800-522-4700, 888-789-7777. Visit ccpg.org/chat, 1-800-BETS-OFF, 1-877-770-STOP, 877-8-467-369, or text 467-369. Visit opgr.org. Call or text TN Redline 1-800-889-9789 or 1-888-532-3500.
It's a lot of numbers.
That is a lot of numbers. And, obviously, this is not betting advice here. My numbers with betting, there's times where I may hit a little hot streak, and then there's times where I don't get anything going for a while. And
I know the feeling.
But looking at some games today, I'm going to stay away from college basketball right now because some of the bets that I've had, I'm like, okay, that's a sure thing there. And then next thing I know, you have like a St. Peter's that is just blowing things up. But
I got a story about that. And I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, you're good.
So right when the game got started, I went in and put in a little bet. I did like a little $10 bet, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna pick St. Pete's to cover,
Mm-hmm.
and I think they were a 9.5 point dog to Purdue. So I was
Mm.
like, okay, I'm gonna pick them to cover. Wouldn't be shocked if they won. They win. So I'm like,
Yeah.
good. I did a little 3-leg.
Yep.
North Carolina. I'm like, I believe they were a 2.5 point dog. So I'm like, I'm going with Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
Bang, they win too. But the one that let me down was Kansas Providence.
Oh no.
Kansas was a 6.5 point favorite. I picked them to win by 7.
Oh
They
no.
win. They win by 5. I could have
Oh
won. I could have won about $75, $80 off of that $10 bet if they scored 2 more points.
man. Hey, so that's bad. Yesterday before the game started, I hopped on the DraftKings app. I was going down through there looking at these college games. I had a parlay put in. I put St. Peter's to win. I put North Carolina to win. I think put Kansas to win, and I forget who else played last night. But either way, looking through all of them, I put all of them in, and I got to looking, and I was like, you know what? Nope, I'm not going to put any money on these. I've been down too much from putting money on these college basketball parlays, so I backed out of it. Didn't put it in, and then every one of them hit. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. The one time my college basketball parlay would have hit, I decided not to bet on it.
I
And
understand because there's been times that's happened to me too. There's
but
times that's happened to me too.
it made sense for St. Peter's to win yesterday, considering it was National Peacock Day. So if they lost on their day, then something's wrong.
I mean, Cinderella, the spirit of Cinderella is with them. I mean,
It is.
I have to admit, I know everybody, jumping on the bandwagon. Count me in too. I'm
Yeah.
like, I'm like, St. Pete, St. Pete, they might could do this. They might could do this. And so I already thought about it. Now they're playing North Carolina, which, I mean, yes, I'm a big Memphis fan, but I'm also a North Carolina basketball fan. So
Mhm.
I'm like, tomorrow, shoot, I think I'm gonna have some food or something like that. I'm just gonna sit back and enjoy this game.
Yep.
I don't care. Even though I like Carolina, I don't care who wins
Yeah, exactly.
because I think no matter what, we all win on this one. On
Yeah.
that game, everybody wins.
Yeah,
So
because I've been after St. Peter's got by Kentucky, I was like, okay, their magic's gonna run out now. Nope, they
right,
won again.
they got the
And
one they wanted.
yeah, and I was like, okay. So now they moved on again. And before last night, I'm like, man, I feel like they have it. They have it with them. They got the team right now that's just hot. They're going to keep rolling. But the reason I talked myself out of that parlay is because I was like, this is going to be the one that gets St. Peter's. Like,
And I
it's
think
going to
that's what
catch
we
up to
all
them
thought.
here.
And I think everybody kind of thought that it was like, okay, you shot Kentucky,
Mm-hmm.
then you go in and just shockingly beat a team that only lost like 2 or 3 games all year.
Yep.
And so even I was saying it to a couple of my coworkers the other day. I was like, he was like, yeah, I think the magic. He said, I think the magic runs out. I'm like, yeah, I think the clock strikes midnight too.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, I just think, they've had a good run. It's a great story. Shout out to St. Pete's and and everything. But I'm like, I think the story is about to end.
Yeah.
But like I said, right when the game was going to start, I'm like, you know what? I think I'll pick St. Pete's to cover at least. Even
Yep.
if they don't win, I think they'll cover. I think they won't lose by double digits.
Right.
So I put that in just saying, you know what? if St. Pete just stays with them, I'm good with that. Then they end up winning. I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, this team, I'm like, there is something special with this team.
There, and that game, my wife and I went out last night, and they had it on the TVs. I was watching it. It was back and forth, and there were a couple times they would get down by like 5 or 6, and that team they stayed composed.
Mhm.
They just played their game, and they kept coming back. And I'd look up one time, they'd be down 6. Look up again, they'd be up 3, and I was
Yeah,
like, okay, they're fixing to win this game, and
it's
it
incredible. I mean, yeah, I just wow. Uh, all I keep thinking about is the show Fresh Prince
yep.
and how um Carlton was kidnapped and
Hmm.
he's supposed to be the mascot, the peacock.
Yep.
So Will tries to step in for him and does the
Yeah.
peacock strut. And so I was like, all I keep thinking is, we're rougher and we're tougher and we are the peacocks of old St. Pete's. I'm like,
Yeah.
just change it from ULA to St. Pete's. And I'm like,
Yep.
man, I'm like, I think everybody needs to, I think somebody is probably going to do a parody to that particular episode and be like,
Yep.
change it to St. Pete's instead of ULA. So, I mean, Peacocks, shout out to them. Carolina getting a win. Coach K still keeping the season going,
Yep.
and my wife and I was talking about this too. Is like, yeah, Duke is playing with a well, my wife and then one of my coworkers too were like, Duke is playing with a purpose. They want to
Hmm.
send Coach K out on top. They want to
Yep.
send him out with one more national championship. So one of my brackets, I got, even though my bracket is shot, I got Duke winning it. So I'm still alive.
Right. That's the saving grace there. Um, so switching to NBA, a game that I'm looking at is today the Bucks and Memphis.
I'll be
And
there. I will be there
ooh.
personally.
So I'm not sure. Right now, they have Memphis favored to win. I'm not sure if Ja's going to be back tonight yet or not. I haven't
No,
saw
I
that
John's gonna be out tonight. Yeah,
out
John's
tonight,
out.
and I don't know. I'm guessing right now if they have Memphis favored, just going off how normally when like the superstars play, I'm guessing Giannis may be out too. I don't know
Yeah, there
because I would.
is. I have heard. I have heard some stuff that Giannis might be out for this game. I don't know yet. Not 100%. I'm gonna try to see if I can find something, but yeah. Rumor was that Giannis may be out for this game as well.
Mhm.
So I mean, I know that takes a little wind out of the sails of the game
Yeah.
a little bit, which I'm like, look, I'm just gonna enjoy. Um, and obviously, I think there's an article saying starless night, so
Mm.
it does sound like Giannis is not going to go. Let me see. I'm trying to confirm that,
Right.
but yeah, let's see. That's Chris Middleton was held out. Giannis was held out. So looks like yeah, it does seem like these it looks like both of these guys are probably it looks like Giannis is gonna be out for this game and Chris Middleton's gonna be out for this game
Oh
and
wow.
Ja's gonna be out too. So um
It's got me kind of rethinking my what was going to be my best bet here because I thought, okay, if Giannis is out, I know the Bucks can still put up points. Even with Ja out, the Grizzlies have been putting up points like crazy because they have the over and under for this game at 233 total points. And
mhm.
I'm looking back at like the Grizzlies last game. I think they put up, didn't they put up over like 130 by themselves? And I'm like, hell, if the Grizzlies can put up 130, all the Bucks have to do is hit 100, and they're right there at this over under. Um, Even with Middleton and Giannis being out, I'm gonna go with the over on this game. I think there'll
Yeah.
still be a lot of scoring. Like I said, Memphis, they can, especially if they continue their hot streak with threes, um, they'll start racking up points in a heartbeat. And so I think over 233 points for this game.
Yeah, I mean, that is the thing. And I did look, and I think as of yesterday, looks like they were saying that Middleton might be probable, but I don't know if he's still going to play or not. Giannis is questionable, so uh, I just don't know how this is going to be. So, I mean, it's very interesting. I am I'm probably going to go, if I was a betting man in this one, I'd probably hit the under
Mm-hmm.
for under 233 as far as I'm concerned. And I mean, yeah, it's very impressive. The Grizz put up 132 without Ja in there. They're 16
Mm-hmm.
and 2 without Ja.
Which is crazy.
I mean,
But
it's sick that they're 16 and 2 without Ja Moran in the lineup, and he's gonna be out for the next. He'll be out for about 2 weeks, so he'll be
Mhm.
back right at the end of the year. I think they're probably most likely shutting him down, getting him ready for the playoffs. So
Right.
don't want to risk it. We're not gonna yet. We have 8 games left. We're not gonna catch Phoenix for the
Right.
1 seed. I mean, right now we're 2.5 games ahead of the Warriors, so no need to rush job right there. I mean, at worst will be
Mm-mm.
a 3. Will be a 3 at the worst. So I think we still win the division and things like that for the first time. So I'd probably go with the under if that's me,
Right.
but I don't know
Well,
if I'm putting money on it.
well, hey, this is the good thing because now, after this game, we'll kind of get to see, and I'll recap it on next week's best bet segment. And if you beat me out here, I'll definitely give you props on that. But yeah, it's interesting. I've been, Memphis. That's what's really hurting, I guess, Jaws MVP chances right
Mhm.
now as well, is because you look at it and, like you said, they're 16 and 2 without him. So even as great as he is and as great as they're playing with him there, all these people voting on MVP, they're looking at it like, yeah, but his team's not falling apart when
Mhm.
he's not there. So,
Yeah.
that hurts him some, but
Yeah.
I'm ready to see how far they can go in the playoffs.
Yeah, and I think another thing is that you do get to pay attention to. Number one, Jaren Jackson, Triple J, should be getting
Mm-hmm.
some defensive player of the year. Should be getting some
Mm-hmm.
defensive player of the year consideration. I mean, he's one of the top shot blockers in the league, as far as I'm concerned. With normally Rudy Gobert normally dominates that in
Mm-hmm.
a landslide, but Triple J's right there. DeAnthony Melton. I mean, if DeAnthony Melton doesn't win Sixth Man of the Year, I don't know what people are thinking as
Yep.
far as I'm concerned. And Desmond Bain is becoming a star in front of our very eyes.
Mm-hmm.
And this kid, yeah, there are times where he does have a slump where he may not be shooting as well, but when he's on, he's on. I
I just have
mean,
to say, I don't know that I've ever seen a dude that jacked in the arms that can shoot as good as he does. Like,
yeah.
I didn't even realize, because like I said, we have Hulu Live. They don't show many Grizzlies games. I didn't realize how big his arms were until like the 3-point contest at All Star Weekend. And I'm
Mhm.
looking at him compared to all these other dudes, and I'm like, good grief. Like, he looks like he could tear these dudes in
Yeah.
half, and he's still got that shooter's touch. Like, it,
It it's great to see. I'm like, man, I'm about to give me a Bane jersey right
yeah.
quick at some point. But I mean, I like how this team, the moment's not too big for them.
Mhm.
And they're young, they're fresh, they're they're the team nobody saw coming.
Right.
And right now, the rest of the West, if you ain't afraid, you might want to start being. And I'm not just talking about low ballers like the Timberwolves or the Clippers. I'm
Right.
talking like the Warriors or the
Hmm.
Suns. Grizzlies are coming.
Yep.
They
And
are coming.
one thing you mentioned is they're young. They give everything they have every night. I mean, they are playing as hard as they can, and that's what sets them up for not just this year being a problem, but the next couple of years being a
Oh,
problem
absolutely.
because how young they are and how that culture has just kind of shifted, like the energy that Ja has brought, and then now all these other guys are picking up on it more. That
And
they're going to be a problem over the next couple of years.
and here's the thing about it, like you said, they're set up for the next few years. They have not only do they have a great young nucleus with Ja, with
Hmm.
Triple J, and Triple J just got a nice big contract. You know, Ja is going to get seriously paid.
Yep.
And not only that, they are in a good situation financially. Like the salary cap, they're still going to be decent with the salary cap, so they can go make a move for a big time player,
Right.
and they've got plenty of draft capital. They
Hmm.
have 3 first-round picks next year.
Oh wow.
They have 3 number 1s next year, which they could. I mean, right now, as it stands, with the Lakers being, I believe, 10th or 11th, the Grizzlies, even though they're in the playoffs, could be back in the lottery for the next year. For next year, because they'll have the Lakers pick. They'll have
That's
the Lakers
crazy.
pick, and I think they'll have their own pick. They have the Laker pick, and I believe they have Utah's pick in this draft. And I think next year is the Warriors pick, if I'm not mistaken. Next year or 2 years from now, they have the Warriors pick. So, I mean, they're set up, like you said, not set up just for now, but for the future. So if they wanted to, they could use one or two of those picks. If there's a big time player out there,
Hmm.
I'll say like a Bradley Beal if he wants out of Washington,
Right.
or some other good people like that. I mean, well, I won't say Damian Lillard getting out of Portland, but because I mean him and Ja kind of play the same position,
Right.
or anything like that. But they could be some major players,
Right.
going forward. They don't have anybody over the age of 28 on
Yeah,
this
which is
team,
crazy.
So I mean, sky's the limit.
It is. And Chris, I know you got to go here soon, and we'll kind of switch back to football right quick and wrap this up. Just want to
Oh,
talk about uh a couple of bigger trades that happened in Tyreek Hill going to the Miami Dolphins,
wow.
which is just insane to me because I figured, the way the Chiefs have been in the mix for the last, couple of years, and Tyreek Hill talking about how many championships they're chasing, and then all of a sudden things just kind of fall apart, and he's like, "All right, trade me to Miami," and which I don't know. I've never been that high on Tua. I know, you have Jalen Waddle there. Now you add Tyreek Hill, two very fast
Exactly.
receivers. And yes, they're guys where if Tua can throw it 10 yards to them and let them do the rest, like, okay, I trust him to do that and they can probably make a play. But
Yeah.
as far as Tua doesn't have that Patrick Mahomes arm where he can air it out down the field
Yeah.
and Tyreek just outrun everybody to go get it. Like
I agree.
he's not going to have that happening nowhere near as much. He may get one every now and then, but I don't know, that really threw me off. And then of course the one with more I guess implications for the AFC South. You have Matt Ryan going to the Colts, and now of course you have all the media way too early AFC predictions. They're
Mhm.
like, "Oh, Colts are taking the AFC South.
Yep.
They went and got Matt Ryan."
You
And look,
know it.
Matt Ryan, very good quarterback. He's definitely an upgrade over Carson Wentz, in my
Mhm.
opinion. The knock on him, though, is he doesn't have the mobility that Carson Wentz had.
Right.
Carson Wentz, things started breaking down in the pocket. Okay, he could really extend it with his legs or run upfield. And all these media members seem to forget, hey, the Titans defense is really good, especially their pass rush.
Yeah.
And now you're bringing in a quarterback who can't move as well as Carson Wentz could. And you have this defensive line that's just sitting there. They're rubbing their hands together like, okay,
Salivate.
we're getting after him this year. So what are your thoughts on that? Like I said, I'm not too worried about it. Yes, he's a little bit of an improvement over Carson Wentz, but I don't think that it just swings everything to the Colts now.
Well, first I'm gonna first shout out to KB for restructuring. I know we forgot to mention that, KB getting his signing bonus now, saving another almost $9 million. So shout out to KB. The Tyreek Hill trade did catch me by surprise because I just assumed, okay, the Chiefs, they don't care about no salary cap. They're gonna re-sign him.
Yeah.
He's gonna be one of the highest paid receivers in the league. Devontae Adams got all that money. He's gonna get his. He ends up going to Miami or New York. And right now, Miami does have a little bit more promise as far as being successful. Because, like you said, it's going to be a track meet with Waddle and Hill. And then you got Raheem Mostert, who's a pretty good running back there. And also, they pick up Terrion Armstead, the good tackle from Miami, from New Orleans. And they're fixing up the offensive line a little bit. So, as a lot of people said, it's all on Tua now. Tua is up to him. And so we have to see. This team, and Miami has a good defense as well. And so, Miami could, I don't think they'll be a threat to Buffalo, maybe not even New England, but I could see them playing spoiler. I'm not talking about like being a bottom feeder spoiler, but I'm talking about somewhere around maybe 7-10, maybe 8-9 or 9-8, kind of either pushing for a playoff or just be able to kick one of them out. So I could definitely see that. But Kansas City gets a boatload of picks in return for that. So they're picking. They got an extra first rounder. They get another next year, I believe. And so now they're picking right behind us at 29 and 30. They could take those two picks if they want to trade up. And if they want to go get a Chris Olave or Jameson Williams or a Drake London, they could if they wanted to, which doesn't bode well for us and, and everything. But, they could easily reload. And if I'm the Titans and if Kansas City is behind us, if Olave or Jameson Williams is there, I'm snatching one of them up to keep them away from Kansas City. I'm keeping them away from Kansas City as much as possible. And so I would definitely do that. So, they get a first, a second. I believe they get a 4, a 6, and I think they get another one next year, if I'm not mistaken. They got like 5 picks out of that. The Matt Ryan trade, and I'm going to play a little devil's advocate. Matt Ryan, I agree, is a upgrade over Carson Wentz. Definitely. And I asked this question on the show this week. Does this make the Colts a threat? A lot of people would say no. I say yes. I'm not saying that the Titans won't win the division, but the Colts are going to make it extremely difficult on them. They're going to be a pain in the you-know-what all year long. Because not necessarily saying that the Colts will overtake them, but they are going to push them to the limit. They are going to push them as far as they possibly can. And again, I see this playing out because I'm, as many people, Titan Pratt included, who doesn't like the fact that I've been bagging on Tannehill, but I'm going to continue to bag on Tannehill. It comes down to 17. And right now, I am nervous because I've read this story before. Tannehill, they're going to do just enough to hold the Colts off and win the division. I think they still win the division, but just barely.
Right.
With Matt Ryan. I think Matt Ryan makes him a threat, but the Colts offensive line is not as invincible as people have been trying to make it out to be.
Right.
They're not as invincible. Now, if Julio goes to Indy, that might be a problem. And everything, because I mean they have an instant connection. So it's going to be very interesting to see how this season plays out. Now it's not just going to be, oh yeah, this is the Titans division. Everybody else are bottom feeders. Not like that no more.
Right. Well, I mean, we've saw over the past couple of years, when Phillip Rivers was there, even with Wentz there last year, I went into these last 3 seasons knowing like, okay, it's between the Titans and the Colts. Like these are the 2 teams that they're going to be right there at the top of the AFC South. They're going to be battling it out. Even with Carson Wentz, I gave the edge to the Titans last year, said just don't trust Carson Wentz. And now, yes, like I mentioned, Matt Ryan, he's an upgrade over him. If Matt Ryan is the quarterback of the Colts at the end of last season, whenever they play the Jaguars, they probably, I'm not going to say for sure, but they probably win that game against the Jaguars and make it to the playoffs.
Yeah, they would have at least got in.
So now, it does, like you said, these 2 teams, they're going to be battling it out. I still think, like I said, I don't think that it swings everything to the Colts where they just take it over, because right now, Titans, we're running the AFC South right now. But they are still going to be right there with us. I mean, I don't think it's a bad move to where, okay, the Colts fall back off, the Titans are going to have it by 2 or 3 games. No, it's going to be close right up until the end, again, knowing how things always go for the Titans.
Yeah,
but
and that might be a good thing. That might be a good thing, because you know what? That keeps us on our toes. That's just like, we can't rest on our laurels. And I think, last year we had to, we had a big lead against Houston. I think we kind of rested on our laurels because we won the division already, but that number 1 seed was on the line and we had to kind of pick it up. But this is going to, I think, make things interesting, depending on how the draft goes. Maybe Tannehill knows the pressure is on, could be looking over his shoulder, not necessarily at Woodside, but at somebody else. Maybe he's like, okay, pressure's on me. I got to get my act together and everything. So, I mean, that's definitely a lot to work on. And I see Olestruck is asking about Devontae Parker, and I'm like, I don't know if that's actually in the works. I mean, I could see a rumor of that, but I mean, I don't know. I mean, Devontae Parker is a solid player, but it's not anything that puts us over the hump or anything.
Right. But, looking at a number 3 spot, I mean, it could be,
can't
give
hurt
us that. Right. So, but
can't hurt to have more weapons.
Well, one last thing I want to hit on is, because you mentioned it, a lot of these people think the Colts O-line is just, they're untouchable, everything. But we saw last year, like, there's some cracks in that O-line. And I believe this year they got some guys that are not returning, or at least one guy, I believe Eric Fisher.
Yeah, I think he's a free agent.
So I think he's already visiting with some other teams. So I'm like, how quickly they forget, even though the Titans turn their pass rush around tremendously, how quickly they forget the Titans can get after quarterbacks now and will be able to get after Matt Ryan like crazy. But, we'll see over the next couple of weeks, as we get closer to the draft, how things are starting to shake up, see about other moves that maybe happen, because this is one of the craziest off seasons I think I have ever
ever.
saw. So, I don't know what's going to happen. We may get done with this show and see some more crazy trades have went down.
It wouldn't
But
surprise me. It wouldn't surprise me at all. Next thing you know, they'll, next thing you know, it'll be like Titans trade for DK Metcalf.
yeah.
I mean,
I don't know that I'd be able to wait a week to do another video on that. I'd probably have to turn right back around and hop back on live.
I would be like, if that would ever happen, I know it's not going to happen. But if it did,
Right.
I mean, the first thing I'm doing is popping on. I'm a wrestling fan. I'm popping on the NWO music, and I'm like, the return of the NWO, nasty wideouts.
That's right.
I'm like, the NWO is back.
Oh, well, Chris, I know you got some stuff you got to do, and we've pretty much covered everything. Thank you again for coming on. Everyone, if you haven't already, y'all go follow him on Twitter. Go subscribe to him on YouTube. His Twitter is at TNT Blue Enforcer. Got it up on the screen here. It'll be linked down in the description. YouTube, Titans and Truth. Also, make sure you follow us on social media at Titans_time on Twitter, Titans Time Podcast on Instagram, and Titans Time on Facebook. Subscribe to the YouTube. Trying to hit 1,000 subscribers before the end of this year. We really appreciate everyone who's already subscribed. And go follow the podcast on Stitcher, Spotify, and Apple Podcast. We really appreciate it. This has been Titans Time, and as always, tighten up.